So Chris Eubank Jr. recently posted saying that he's a free agent, free of any promoter or agent or manager. He's, free to openly negotiate his own deals, his own fights. The problem is with Chris Eubank Jr., and has always been sort of historically the issue throughout his career, is that he often prices himself out of the fights he should be having, right? The guys that are really at Eubank Jr.'s level, the amount that they would offer to fight Eubank Jr. wouldn't be enough for Eubank Jr. to fight them. Which means he either ends up fighting guys who are much better than him or who are much worse than him. As in, you look at the Conor Benn fights, you look at each guy's career, Chris Eubank Jr. should be winning both of those fights. And he won the first fight, but he clearly ran out of steam in the second fight and was just a shell of himself. But even going throughout his career before, George Groves proved to be a far better boxer than him. Billy Joe Saunders proved to be a better boxer than him. Liam Smith, he got the rematch win against Liam Smith, and Liam Smith probably shouldn't have really been beating Chris Eubank Jr., but he did. And, the other fights, other big fights that he could have made, he priced himself out of. Or he was always one loss or sort of one win away, and then he would lose that fight, right? If he had beat George Groves, he would have gone on to get a big fight. The Liam Smith fight, by the time the Liam Smith fight came around, Eubank Jr. had already lost pretty much all of his steam. And in terms of, no one ever thought after the George Groves loss that Eubank Jr. would go on to actually achieve anything at world level, because George Groves himself was a guy who wasn't. He was at the top. He was at the fringes of world level, but he wasn't like a generational middleweight or super middleweight, the same way a Triple G or Canelo was. Like, if you're getting outboxed by George Groves, Canelo and Triple G would tear him to shreds, right? But that's always been the issue in Chris Eubank Jr.'s career. We'll see where he can negotiate to go with next. I imagine the likes of Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren won't touch him because of the stuff he said about them, actually. More so the personal things. He's actually burnt a lot of bridges with a lot of promoters. But also, he'll price himself out. He'll be like, okay, a nice domestic fight, I want £1 million, I want £2 million. Bro, this is a 300 to 400 grand fight at most. Like, be realistic. But obviously, he's in a situation where he's made the money he's made. Like, he doesn't need to fight anymore. So I guess if he is going to fight, he only wants big fights and big paydays, which, it's fair enough. Most guys get to that point in their career where that's all they want to do, and Chris Eubank Jr.'s got to that point, so fair enough. Maybe him declaring he's a free agent, maybe it's a negotiating move, and maybe it'll help him get a bit more money if he can get that Zuffa deal, where, of course, there was talks of him v Edgar Berlanga on a Zuffa card. Again, if Zuffa have any brain cells, they won't pay Chris Eubank Jr. a big amount of money for that, because at this point, I really don't think he'll be as big of a draw as what Chris Eubank Jr. thinks he will be. But that'll be up to Zuffa. They've got a lot of money to burn, clearly. If you're offering Conor Benn the amount that they've offered him, they've clearly got a lot of money to burn. But I'd be curious to see what happens next with Chris Eubank Jr. Which promoter do you think will pick him up? Who do you think his next opponent will be? And when can we see Chris Eubank Jr. back in the ring? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag, and I'm out. Peace.